Welcome to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast.
Wherever you find American troops today, you find the men of the Transportation Corps. Enough and on time. That's the story we tell you today. The story of the Army Quartermaster Corps.
These youthful servicemen are members of the Army's Military Police Corps.
One of the most important forces behind the lines, the Army Ordnance Corps.
Welcome to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast. Once again, I am Sergeant First Class Adam Ross, Public Affairs NCOIC for 19th ESC. And today I'm joined by the Command Surgeon for Team 19, Major Edward Chang. Sir, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm very excited to talk to you today and to support the mission of the 19th ESC.
Glad to have you, sir. And so we usually get to know our guests a little bit when they first come on. So if someone's met you on Daegu or your many travels around the peninsula, they see you wearing a Special Forces tab and a Sapper tab. So you had kind of quite a little journey to get to where you are today as a medical officer. So maybe if you could take us back to what made you want to join the Army in the first place, sir.
Well, actually, I hate to say it, but the main reason I did was to kind of defray the costs of college. Mm-hmm. So initially, I entered the military service because I was a ROTC student at Johns Hopkins University many, many years ago. And then when I entered, I was immediately recruited into a program that dealt primarily in special operations, and I was recruited into a special mission unit, and that required some training in special forces and language training and some additional training that to assist in my capabilities as that type of officer. And so that's how I came in initially into the Army. I could tell everybody the training was fantastic, and the mission and the ideals that were taught to me initially were everything that I still believe in. It was just a lifestyle was not conducive to having a family, and I was kind of thinking about the future of what to do because I knew I wasn't going to be a soldier forever. So at that point, that's when I decided to go to medical school.
And so when you were studying at Johns Hopkins, were you studying medicine at that time? That's what they're known for. But.
Yes, but actually I went there mainly because they gave me a fairly good scholarship. Unfortunately, it didn't cover the 100%. It only covered about 60%, so that's why I did ROTC as well too. But I did it mainly for that, but as an undergraduate, I actually studied electrical engineering. So I have a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering. And I had no plans of going to medical school.
Oh, okay. And so kind of, was that ever in the back of your mind that you'd become a doctor? Or what
No,
kind of?
Actually, initially when I looked at the medical field, it was because I had several of my, SF medics, the 18 Deltas, that got out and became PAs. And so I happened to be in the great state of Kentucky, doing some other things, and they have a very good PA program. And so that's what I was initially planning to do, was to apply and become a PA through the University of Kentucky. And then I realized, why not try for medical school? And then luckily I got in, and so that's where I ended up doing my medical training, was at the University of Kentucky.
Okay, in Lexington, right?
Yes, and it was a great experience, and it also led me to my wife, who was also a medical student there, and so that place will always hold a very dear place in my heart.
But during your time with Special Forces, you picked up a language. You learned Korean, and so that's obviously served you well through your career.
Yes. So a funny story with that is when I came in, I'm actually ethnic Chinese. So I was hoping that I would learn Chinese, and that's what I requested. And even up to until the first day that I showed up for language training. I thought that I was going to learn Chinese. And then this gentleman walked in and started speaking in Korean, and I was like, well, that doesn't sound Chinese. So I'm actually fluent in Korean, but I cannot speak any Chinese, and I'm like a third-generation Chinese American.
Okay. And so that brings us to your time in 19th. And before we get too far along, so what is your medical specialty then?
So yes, I am a otolaryngologist, which is an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and I do surgery on the head and neck. So everything from the skull base to your collarbones is what I operate on.
And so you have a pretty busy schedule here in Korea, I understand, because you are the command surgeon, but then you also do what you mentioned there with the operations relating to your specialty. Yes.
So as a surgeon, I think I'm the first actual real surgeon to sit in the command surgeon slot. And the reason why you don't usually see a surgeon in this position is due to the fact that to maintain my surgical skills, I have to still operate on patients, and there's a certain number and certain key index cases or clinical task lists that I need to accomplish so that I don't falter in my abilities. And so to do that end, I've luckily been able to obtain privileges up at our hospital in Humphreys. And our command has been very generous, allowing me that time to go up there once a week to see patients and to perform surgeries as needed.
Okay, so someone might see you in Daegu in the hospitals, or maybe in Humphreys up there.
So that's another thing that I've been kind of working on is because of my language ability and the interaction and the liaison activities that I've been able to enjoy with the local civilian hospitals. They've allowed me to also enter into their operating rooms here. And so ultimately, I'm trying to work it out so that I may be able to get privileges at one of the hospitals here and operate specifically on, our soldiers here in Korea.
And let's stay on that, sir. So here in Daegu, I've accompanied you on a couple of these visits to the hospitals. We have a great working relationship with the hospitals in Daegu, and Daegu's nickname is Medicity. Is that how it's known for its medical facilities here? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Korea, I would say from all my visits to various hospitals and the medical centers, they are definitely on the cutting edge of medicine. They have the latest equipment. They train using the same curriculum as we have in the U.S. In fact, all their didactics or their classroom activities while as a medical student or as a resident is done in English. And so they use the same textbooks. They have the same training. And, I find that, at least with the same specialty as mine in otolaryngology, when I work with those physicians here in Korea, which I've had the pleasure of doing, they are very skilled. And I have no doubt that they will be able to provide the medical care and the specialty care that some of our soldiers may need while they're here in Daegu. And although Seoul is the largest city, Daegu's medical capabilities are equal to, if not better, than what I've seen in Seoul, especially in the area of plastic surgery.
And so could you provide an example of why a service member or dependent would go to a local Daegu hospital? What kind of instance?
So for two reasons. One is convenience, because otherwise you would have to travel up to our hospital up in Humphreys. And number two is the local hospitals here would offer specific subspecialty services that unfortunately that we are unable to maintain up at our hospital up at Humphreys. So, for example, in the field of head and neck surgery, as I mentioned, plastic surgery, that is a subspecialty, so facial plastics. So those are the people that would do cosmetic surgery of the face, reconstructive surgery, doing something called flaps, where you take tissue from somewhere else and use that to reconstruct parts of your face. That's a subspecialty in otolaryngology that we're all trained in. However, there's people that go an extra year to get more training in that. We don't have that capability at Brian D. Allgood, mainly because we don't have enough patients to really justify having that. So if you were to need something like that, then Daegu would be a perfect location to be sent to one of the hospitals here.
Brian D. Allgood is the hospital in Humphreys, and we have a clinic on Camp Walker and Camp Carroll, but for anything beyond like the clinic, you'd have to go somewhere else. And so you were here during the COVID outbreak, sir, when it first started, or?
No, I came about a year after. So I guess in a way, fortunately, missed the initial epicenter of how it occurred in Korea, which happened and started here in Daegu. But the great efforts from our 19th ESC command and the USFK folks here in Daegu, just through their efforts, we were able to mitigate the risks and to manage it well, and to send in protocols that we still follow today.
And those hospitals that you spoke of, they were critical in those early days too of the COVID outbreak.
Yes, definitely. They and due to their support of our folks here in the local area, they were able to provide us the definite guidelines and the support that we needed to manage our personnel. Luckily, nobody within our USFK ranks required any significant medical care due to COVID. However, the capabilities were definitely there if necessary.
And one more bit on the hospitals in Daegu, sir. So they, if a dependent goes there, these hospitals are able to utilize TRICARE, and you'll be paid for through TRICARE?
Yes. So there are a number of hospitals, and primarily the large medical centers here do accept TRICARE. And the process is, you get a referral to one of these hospitals through the primary care physician, typically at Walker or Carroll, and then the soldier or the dependent are allowed to go to one of these TRICARE accepting hospitals, and it's all funded through TRICARE, so they're able to get the top-notch care that they need.
Great. And so one thing that, if you follow our Facebook page, they may have seen we shared photos and video of you. You were one of the only finishers for the Expert Field Medical Badge competition testing held up at Camp Casey this year. So could you talk a little bit about what went into your decision to want to pursue that? A lot of soldiers, maybe once they get up in the ranks, they don't go for that. What went into your decision, sir?
So my main reason was I just wanted to be a motivator. I think it's a great training experience. It's a very prestigious award, and it is awarded to the few elite in the medical community, and is one of the few things that you can compete for as a soldier in medicine. And with the COVID restrictions that we've had, and the atmosphere of everything was just a little bit, I would say, more restricted because of COVID. I felt that this would be a good opportunity to highlight, the positives and something that we could, motivate other soldiers in the medical community to join and pursue. And so I just wanted to do it as a motivation, and to show that, hey, it's never too late to try to do this. I was doubtful that I would be able to complete it because it is a very rigorous and difficult program. However, luckily, the stars aligned or whatever, but I was able to accomplish it and get through the program.
So that testing involves the usual kind of Army testing of day and night land nav, PT test, ruck march. What about the medical side of it? Were there parts of it that you had to brush up on maybe a little that you hadn't done for a while?
Well, actually, this the FMB is, I think, particularly difficult for doctors, mainly due to the fact that this is geared primarily towards the medic, and so it's more for field medicine, where you would provide care on the battlefield, essentially, or during a combat type of situation, and that's not typically where you would find a doctor. So it was actually a lot of materials. There were like level 1 skill tasks as a soldier that I had to kind of brush up on. And as far as the medical aspect of it, it's something that you were not taught in medical school. I had to recall from my time as an operational officer and going on my deployments. And so yes, I had to kind of brush up on that material, but it's definitely geared not towards doctors, and I think that's why physicians have such a difficult time getting through it.
Mm-hmm. And what advice would you give to a soldier going for a competition like that? What do they need to focus on, or what should their mindset be?
So it is very cerebral. I liken it to when I went through selection. It's physically demanding, of course, same as with EFMB, but it's somewhat of a mind game. So the whole thing is geared towards somebody who is mentally, I'd say, sound or mentally tough. And so, obviously definitely train physically for it and be physically ready, but also don't neglect, the cerebral aspect of it, and just focus in on the manuals and the FMs that are provided to you to provide guidance and the information that you need. And so it's important that you prepare significantly and sufficiently for it and to take it seriously. But it's, again, a great experience, and I would highly recommend it for any medical soldier to attend.
Okay. And you mentioned before you met your wife at University of Kentucky, and so over the years you've spent some time in Korea. This is the first time you were able to bring your family with you to Korea. What's been the experience like in Korea with your family, sir?
It's a somewhat colored by the fact that COVID's going on. However, like I tell everybody else, I don't think you could really be at a safer place than Korea while this pandemic's going on, just because of the seriousness with how the Koreans approach this. But even with that, and even with the restrictions that we've had, I've really enjoyed my time here so far with my family. And this is the first time I've been married and had a family here with me. And so it's been easier, I would say, to do my time here than what I've had to do in the past when I've traveled here by myself. Luckily, during that time, I didn't have a family, and so there wasn't. But I did have my parents and other friends and family that I missed back in the States, and so having a family here with you is definitely a plus, and it makes the time go by faster, and it's good to have that support here.
And you have some small children, sir. What is, you mentioned before we started recording, your daughter's going into kindergarten soon. So what's been your experience with the schools here in Daegu?
So we've actually put our youngest into a nursery, a Korean nursery, and then we also had my daughter in a Korean, preschool. But it's been a great experience. They are very focused on academics. They do very close hands-on care for children. I've had no concerns as far as their educational development or their safety at these locations, and it's been a great opportunity for at least my youngest. I think he's learned Korean, and so he actually knows more Korean words than English at this point.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, my daughter is going to one of those nurseries as well, and they really, it's been said before on this podcast, but like, kids are celebrities in Korea. They love little kids here, and so yeah, the amount of care and attention they use at those schools is amazing. So, sir, closing out, we've mentioned the COVID pandemic before. You're obviously very involved in the prevention of that among our units. What can you tell me a little bit about how you stress the urgency to other leaders you meet and the behind these prevention measures going forward?
So the big key to us overcoming this pandemic and to managing it successfully is vaccination. And that's the key that I highlight for every individual, and to include the commanders whenever I discuss COVID with them. Luckily in USFK, we're at a very high percentage of vaccination. I think we're above 85%, peninsula-wide. And here in Area 4, I think we may be even a little bit higher than that. But the reason why I say this is if we are able to vaccinate enough people, then this virus, which is essentially like any type of organism, and it goes from host to host to try to survive, it won't have anywhere else to go. And so vaccination doesn't necessarily mean that you can't get infected. However, what the vaccination does is it decreases your risk of getting very ill from the COVID virus, and of allowing the virus to mutate, if you will, and to make these variants that we are seeing right now. That's the biggest problem that we have so far, is that the insufficiency of vaccination, and as a result, the COVID virus has mutated. Like it normally does, any type of virus does, and so the big big bad thing that we are seeing is the Delta variant, and because of that, we've seen a surge of cases worldwide, in the U.S. and even here in Korea and within our ranks. But again, luckily, majority of us are vaccinated, and that it would be the key to successfully overcoming this pandemic at this time.
So just the vaccine is the key.
Yes, it totally is. And also, obviously, using the core tenets to protect those who are not vaccinated. But again, it all goes back to making sure that enough of our folks are vaccinated. And incidentally, it's going to probably develop into a mandate here shortly, as I'm sure you are all aware. Our Secretary of Defense and President Biden have ratified the timeline for this. It's based on, obviously, FDA approval, but regardless, our Secretary of Defense has set 15 September as the likely deadline when it will become a mandate, and everyone will have to be vaccinated.
And you mentioned the core tenets, sir. The masks is more prevalent now, more where we have to wear them. Just as like the vaccine won't 100% prevent you from getting the virus, a mask won't 100% prevent spread, but it does present a significant barrier. Right?
It does. And again, when you're thinking about masking, you're not doing it so much for yourself, but you're doing it for your buddy. Because if you happen to have the virus, the wear of the mask prevents you from spreading the droplets that typically carry, the virus particles in the aerosolized air. And so that's why we have the mask wear mandate as well as the distance mandate. So typically we've seen these droplets, travel about 1 to 2 meters, and so that's why we have included that distance as well as the masking in the core tenets.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, sir. We covered a lot of topics, and hope to have you on again sometime here.
Thank you. Anytime.
Yep. And thanks for joining us here on the Every Soldier Counts podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss one episode, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the Every Soldier Counts podcast.